Welcome to The Voiceover with your host, D. Foster III, where we discuss relevant topics that affect the culture with bold, independent commentary. Get ready to be inspired, enlightened, and encouraged.
It's Friday, and it's time for the Voiceover Net podcast. I'm your host, D. Foster III, CEO and President of Wake Up Global Networks. You know what to do at the beginning. Listen, hey, it's the weekend. Come on, wherever you are, turn it up. Put this link in your contacts. We're going to get into some things. You know the spill, hit the like, push it up in the algorithms, hit the subscribe so you know when we drop brand new content. I want to get into some things. I want to say happy Friday to you. Thank you for joining us. I want to say thank you for all of our family, all of our friends, all of those of you that have been following our content, especially on last week when we took you and V and I took you into our spiritual, just a snippet of our spiritual growth classes. And often I like to dip into that because I think that is very key, that we evolve and we grow and we become all that God in spirit has created us to be. Listen, if you want to know more about us, go to our website. That's www.wakeupglobalnetworks.com, www.wakeupglobalnetworks.com. And follow me on social media, my X and IG. It's DJ Change 111. DJ Change 111. In the bio of my IG, there's a link if you want to subscribe to our lit Patreon. That's right. Every week we go deep dives, special videos, special guests, mentoring, and much, much more. Feel free to become a member, a subscribed member of our Patreon. And of course, you get more than you give when you join Patreon. Every Sunday morning, the Voice of Hope Connection, bringing hope, bringing vitality to get you through the week. I want you right here on WPB Media. You can watch the live, or you can be a part of the replay. The live drops every Sunday morning at 7 a.m. Want to say shout out to April J., the CEO and owner of this wonderful platform that has given us an opportunity to have our voices heard. Having said that, like, share this video. All right. There's so much going on. Oh, God. I've never seen a week like this. It's one thing after another thing. So, I always try to give relevant content. That's the goal. And I'm always feeling what our audience would be interested in. And so, I had been working on the Diddy trial. And that's even expanded. I begin part one. It's bigger than that, right? So I was like, let me continue. But then the Epstein bombshells drop that says possibly President Trump is involved in a cover-up. So I said, should I cover that? And what's the significance of that to our community, to the collective? Then Comey is fired. You know Comey, the daughter of former FBI head, the one who prosecuted Ghislaine Maxwell, the one who indicted Epstein, the one who was in charge of the P. Diddy trial, the head prosecutor, federal prosecutor, head of, DOJ. And I said, should I cover that? Connected to the Epstein, connected to the Trump, and the floods in Texas. And the Stephen Colbert show being canceled after he railed CBS about settling a settlement with Trump. So much every day, every day, every day. And there's other things. But I decided, wow, those are the main headliners, to dig beneath the pile and pull up something that I am sure most people forgot or have just moved on. And I reached into my bag of content back to 2020 and called her name Breonna Taylor. Yeah, you remember that, don't you? I mean, you remember that because the title of today's show is She's More Than a Movement. She's more than a movement. Breonna Taylor, 2020. It's with Epstein and Diddy and Ghislaine and Comey and Colbert and all of everything. And Trump's desire to fire the chairman of the Fed. That was another breaking story. But underneath all of that, I decided to dig beneath all those main headlines and call her name and bring us as a community back to remembrance of a young lady who was innocently killed in 2020 by the name of Breonna Taylor. Now you said that defaults to 3. I want you to like this. I want you to share this. Why would you bring that up? I mean, with everything relevant that's going on, why would you bring that up? And I'm gonna tell you in just a minute. But what sparked the memory of Breonna Taylor and the tribute and the honor to Breonna Taylor and the other women like Sandra Bland and etc. that year sparked a movement. Say her name. Remember that? Come here. Let's go back. Because one of the problems I have with us, especially, can I talk to my African American community? I know I have global followers. We have short-lived memories. We live for a moment and not monument. We live for the adrenaline of a moment, and then soon as something else comes by, we forget it. And guess what? That's why we never get anything accomplished, because not only do I know it, other people know it, and other races know it, and other races and other people are aware of that if you just let time go, they'll get over it, and they will move on like we did with now I would have thought, and maybe I'm remiss in saying this, but I would have thought, what out of all the 2020 Black Lives Matter and naming streets and shirts and preaching on it and teaching on it and lecturing on it, I would have thought after all of that 21, 2, 3, 4, 5, just 5 years ago. Now, a lot has happened in 5 years. I get it. I got it, right? But I would have thought after all of that, yesterday, I would have looked at certain blogs and certain posts and certain shows, and it would have been the headliners. And they would have been as ignited as I am to bring back to our remembrance this young lady after one of the police officers. You say defaults to 3. What sparked this? Where'd you get this from? With everything else that's happening that you can talk about in the culture, the feds, Epstein, Trump, his veins swollen, his swollen veins, whatever. No. I told you, I was digging to the bottom of the pile that you have placed on the bottom, that you have moved on from, a lot of you, and forgotten her name. Because you remember, that was a slogan. Say her name. Say her name, say your name. You're acting kind of shady since 2020. Huh? Like this. What sparked this was the DOJ, the Justice Department, under the Trump administration, has recommended that an officer that was guilty of shooting, I think it was 10 times into the house of Breonna Taylor, get 1 day in jail. Black Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter. See, I'm over the slogans. I'm over the movements. It's going to take consistency and follow up. I would have thought this story would have been all on the news. I would have thought there would have been, and maybe there was. I didn't see a lot of it. I saw a mention and then skip to Trump. I saw a mention and then skip to Comey. I saw a mention and then skip to chairman of the Feds. But I didn't see detailed stories. Maybe you did, right? So I don't have channels in the whole world. Got a lot of them though. I didn't see detailed stories, and what I didn't see was the outrage of the recommendation of the prosecutors. Now, I'm going to read you an article from CNN, just the backdrop, for those of you who don't know the story. I mean, if you are more than 10, you probably know the story, but I don't want to take it for granted. Because this happened in 2020. Remember, that's a long time ago. And our attention span doesn't go beyond reels. Our attention span doesn't go beyond reels. So let me read this article and I'll quote. Then I'm going to give you more, not necessarily a commentary, but I'm going to give you a tribute to Breonna. The Justice Department, and this is from CNN, an article yesterday on the 17th. The Justice Department is asking that a former police officer found guilty of violating the civil rights of Breonna Taylor in 2020, where she was shot and killed. Now, I want to point out that he is not the one who fired the bullet, allegedly according to investigators, that killed her. But he did violate her civil rights because remember, they went in on a no-knock warrant. And see, all of this, and this is why I'm so perturbed with this, because we were up in arms. We were talking about police reform. We were talking about accountability. We were talking about all of that stuff in 2020. And the world turns. And the world turns. All right, let's go ahead. When she was shot and killed by police in her Louisville home to be sentenced to 1 day in jail, probably time already served because I think he stayed overnight in jail. The officer, Brett Hanskin, Hankison of Kentucky, was convicted of 1 count of abusing Taylor's civil rights last year after firing several shots through Taylor's bedroom window during a police raid. And he is set to be sentenced on Monday. Taylor's killing, now this is what I want to get to, became the pillar. No, it didn't. It became the talk. It became the photo op, in my opinion. It became fundraising, because Black Lives Matter raised a lot of money that still goes unaccountable, but that's a whole different story. As a matter of fact, the individual who was leading Black Lives Matter during that time, they did an investigation, and I think allegedly they were found guilty of some embezzlement. But anyway, that's a whole different story. Like the NAACP allegedly in Baltimore. I was going to hit that story too, because that story hits close to home. When we have leaders unaccountable, oh God, I was going to hit that story, and I may still hit that story, but I'm going to try to contact the individuals that are involved, because I know a few individuals that are involved, and I want to get their side of the story before I go live on the internet with it. Because sometimes the news can be biased, and sometimes ex-leaders can be biased, right? But that's the story I'm going to definitely hit. Because it happened with Black Lives Matter. It happens with a lot of our civil rights groups, where we get people in leadership. And then there was a story I could have did. Y'all excuse me. I'm just in a way today. I just, because I don't know how people think. With Trayon White, I was going to do that story, that he got reelected. Now, some people say, well, he's innocent. I know, no, I'm not all over the place. I'm proving my point. Stay with me. He's innocent until proven guilty. I get it. But when you have photos of him, I know. Putting money in pockets, when you anyway, I'm going to wait that one out for his supporters. But I am amazed at our thinking patterns sometimes. But yet with this, we let it fall underneath the pile. So let me continue with this, because I told you this week was phenomenal. Breaking stories. But I chose to do this one on the show because this was the one that I heard about the least, but to me is one of the most important. He was convicted of abusing Taylor's civil rights last year after firing several shots through her bedroom during a raid. Remember, they thought Taylor's ex-boyfriend, who allegedly was a drug dealer, was in the house. She was not in the house. He was not in the house. She was with her current boyfriend at that time. They were asleep. They issued a no-knock warrant, fired in the house. According to the story, her current boyfriend, thinking that there was an invasion, fired back, and then they opened fire, or they broke in the house first, excuse me. Not fired first. They broke in the house. The boyfriend, and I understand that, thought it was an invasion because of a no-knock warrant, right? Police reform, right? Or photo op, right? Get in good trouble, right? And I was going to talk about the pushback on the stadium deal. That was going to be my favorite topic, because I already said. But anyway, see, he's to be sentenced Monday. Taylor's killing became the pillar in the Black Lives Matter movement. And this is the title. She must be more than a movement. I mean, we have swept Breonna Taylor, Sandra Bland, and the likes under the rug. It was a good movement. It was a good show. It gave us platforms. It raised money. But there was no follow through. Watch this. In one of the several cases that sparked nationwide protests against police violence in 2020, if granted, a shortened sentence could re-inflame tensions with activists who believe the government institutions protect officers from facing consequences. Well, we'll live to see that Monday, right? But in court filings Wednesday, the Justice Department argued that although Hankin was a part of the team executing the warrant, defendant Hankin did not shoot Miss Taylor and is not otherwise responsible for her death. Counsel is unaware of another prosecution in which a police officer has been charged with depriving the rights of another person under the Fourth Amendment for returning fire and not injuring anyone. Wait, so let me ask you this. Can you or I go now, and I'm not going to read the whole thing, I'm just going to kind of summarize it. Can you and I go out right now and fire into a person's house about 10 times, and it says that the bullets even went into an adjacent apartment where a man and a woman and a baby were. They weren't hit. Now, I know his firearm is legal, but it's something called aggressive force, over force. You just open fire like you at a gun range. In Black Lives Matter, that's a saying. Matter of fact, your current president forced the mayor of D.C. change that street. I'm glad I got a picture of it in 2021 because it no longer exists. Because in the mind of white America, not all. I told y'all today, it may have never been true. It was a fundraising slogan. Too many. Too many. They raised millions off of t-shirts, off of paraphernalia. That's a rabbit hole that I'm eventually go down also. I don't tell you how to think. I just put it out there so you can think. Because mainstream media trying to engineer your thinking. All right, let me go ahead, right? Well, let me go ahead. The request of Hansen to serve 1 day behind bars would mean a sentence of time served, meaning that he would not return to jail. They're also asking the judge to sentence him to 3 years of supervised release. The filing was signed not by lawyers involved in the case or the career staff who usually handle sentencing requests, but by Trump's appointee to run the Civil Rights Department, Harmeet Dillon, Dillon, and a senior non-career official in her division. Taylor was shot during a botched no-knock raid in 2020 when officers were searching for Taylor's ex-boyfriend who was not in the house. Dead for nothing. Bad information. Like this video. Share this. Share this. Yes, I want to rekindle her name. Taylor's boyfriend at the time, Kenneth Walker III, later said he thought they were intruders. And I guess so. You sleep and you hear somebody banging on your door. And opened fire at police officers. Officers returned, including Hansen, who was accused of blindly firing through a patio window. The bullet pierced into a neighbor's apartment where a pregnant woman and a man and a child were home. Thank God they weren't hurt. According to prosecutors, Hansen was fired from the police department in late June 2020. And it goes on and on and on and on. And two, let me read this because this is key. Then I'll stop. Where I want. In an apparent criticism of the Biden-era Justice Department handling of the case under Trump's DOJ, noted in their Wednesday filing that Hansen was acquitted in a state trial and that the first federal trial ended in a mistrial. In this case, 2 federal trials were ultimately necessary to obtain a unanimous verdict of guilt, prosecutors wrote. But even then, the jury convicted only 1 count, despite the fact that the elements of the charges and underlying conduct are essentially the same. Prosecutors continue adding that the jury's verdict will almost certainly ensure that defendant Hansen never serves as law enforcement again and will also likely never legally possess a firearm. For his part, Hansen also argued for leniency, right? Mr. Hansen is suspected to is susceptible to abuse based on the status of a police officer, coupled with the extensive national and international media attention this case has generated over the past 5 years. His attorney wrote. No time for Louisville police. Say her name. Say her name. And one of the problems why this case, in my opinion, could go like that, first of all, when you look at the trial, it had nowhere near the support, the reporters that the P. Diddy Combs case had. And I'm not saying they shouldn't have been there. I'm making a point. See, I'm making a point of what is really important to our community. And I did a podcast several months ago where I talked about everything is about celebrityism, and the common person gets no attention. I did that when I did the podcast about, I think, Serena, the tennis player, in the restaurant. Because we think status and position is what matters in life. And here was a hard-working young lady, right? We all make choices. She's a hardworking young lady in the medical field, working in the emergency room, in her bed, minding her business, and kill with bad, that's the thing, bad information. And yes, there was a quick outcry, a quick outrage. We want him. And, and, and yeah, there were some indictments and guilty verdicts. But here's a man in one article that I read said fired at least 10 times through blinds and through curtains. Make it make sense. And I'll finish my commentary and my salute to Breonna Taylor by saying this. I think one of the reasons that these things can happen is because I think it is known that we as a community, we live for the moment. We get on a bandwagon, like the Target bandwagon, like the Black Lives Matter bandwagon. We love bandwagons for the moment. Press conferences, photo ops, hype. But most of our movements die because there is very little longevity. You want to know one of the reasons why, in my opinion, that the president is because even when he was beaten by Biden, MAGA stayed strong. Now, I'm not endorsing that. I'm making a point. They kept holding rallies for the 4 years Biden was president. They kept raising money for the 4 years. They didn't say, oh, well, that was just a movement in 2016 when Donald Trump became president. I think it is widely known that a certain group of people, especially us, people of color, that we have a very short attention span and we live from event to event. And we never see long-lasting results. It's like the Voting Rights Act. For a while, there was a big march with Sharpton and others for the Voting Rights Act. Of course, it didn't pass, but I haven't heard anything. I hear a mention, but not an outcry. And it's known. Yeah, they're making noise now. They're threatening now. They're marching now. But just wait. Give it time and let it blow over. And they'll move on to something else. And then we can continue to reinforce our agenda. Say her name. Say it loud. Breonna Taylor. May her blood cry out from the ground until she gets total justice. Not a criminal, not shot in a robbery, not shot in a drug sting, not shot in a shoplifting spree, but in her bed, minding her business. Say her name. Say her name. I want you to like, I want you to share, I want you to subscribe, I want you to follow. Don't forget, go to our website, www.wakeupglobalnetworks.com. Don't forget, Sunday morning at 7 a.m., the Voice of Hope Connection. Until next week, I'm your host, D. Foster 3, reminding you, listen, you got a voice. Please, please keep lifting it. Peace.
Thank you for being a part of The Voiceover. Please follow us on all of our social media platforms to stay connected to our upcoming shows and guests. Instagram at The Voiceover Radio. Twitter at DPropheticI. That's the letter D, prophetic, EYE. If this show has enriched you in any way, please share The Voiceover among your circle. Until next time, keep allowing your voice to be heard.